I have looked at a lot of cartoons on this series, and I mean a lot of cartoons. However, out of all the cartoons that I've looked at on this series so far, there's one cartoon that sticks out to me like a sore thumb for one very specific reason. And that cartoon in question is It's Fred, which I looked at in the third episode of the Search for the Worst Cartoon. Now you see, what makes It's Fred different from the other cartoons I've looked at on this series is that so far, it is the only cartoon I've looked at that I actually watched when I was a kid. As in, I have childhood memories of watching this as a kid. As in, I have, I guess you could say, nostalgia for this thing, just because I remember watching it as a kid, back when I didn't know any better. Now, on the one hand, I'm embarrassed to think about how I watched this when I was a kid, but on the other hand, considering the fact that It's Fred is one of the better cartoons I've looked at on this series, I'm not that embarrassed by it. But regardless, it is interesting to me how this is the only cartoon that I have like any sort of personal connection to that I've looked at on this series. Until now, of course. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be looking at another childhood favorite of mine on this series. We looked at Velma a few episodes ago, this really infamous cartoon that's already established itself as one of the biggest bad cartoons ever. It's already made animation history for all the wrong reasons. But there's another Scooby-Doo cartoon that I want to look at on this series, and I think it will be a much more interesting cartoon when compared to Velma. I think there will be a lot more interesting things to say about this one compared to Velma. Allow me to introduce you all to Shaggy and Scooby-Doo Get a Clue. And now some of you might be asking, what the f*** is Shaggy and Scooby-Doo Get a Clue? Well, you see, Shaggy and Scooby-Doo Get a Clue might be the greatest cartoon spinoff ever made, and quite possibly the greatest Scooby-Doo cartoon ever made. Shaggy and Scooby-Doo Get a Clue is a show that aired on Kids WB from 2006 to 2008 for a total of 26 episodes and 2 seasons. I watched this when I was a kid. I have childhood memories of this thing. I own DVDs of this show, for crying out loud. And this isn't like with the other Search for the Worst Cartoon DVDs where it's like I bought them just for novelty purposes and that's it. No, I had these when I was a kid. These DVDs are from my childhood. One of the DVDs that I own is like this rare bonus promo DVD that I think was included alongside like a DVD for like a regular Scooby-Doo, like Scooby-Doo Where Are You or whatever. I don't know, but yeah, I have a bit of a holy grail in my possession potentially. I remember back when Velma was getting a lot of backlash at the beginning of this year, there were a few people that brought up this show when talking about like previous like Scooby-Doo cartoons and whatnot, with some people saying like, oh, this show is actually good now when compared to Velma. We all owe this show an apology. And I'm gonna just say, yeah, for sure you should owe this an apology. Y'all shouldn't have hated on this in the first place because this show is actually amazing. I don't even care. My childhood self was based for thinking this show was good. I don't even know why I'm looking at this on the Search for the Worst Cartoon. It's honestly a masterpiece. This is one of the greatest cartoons ever made. You know how people have that theory that like Velma was originally pitched as a completely original show that had like nothing to do with Scooby-Doo at all, but then it was like rejected, and then it was like subsequently rewritten to be about Scooby-Doo, to have like Scooby-Doo characters in it, and then because of that, it became like greenlit and became a show. Yeah, I think that theory is more appropriate for this show than it is for Velma. Because with Velma, there's still a little bit of a resemblance to Scooby-Doo. Like, in addition to having all of the mystery gang in it, aside from Scooby-Doo, of course, but like you got Fred, Daphne, Velma, Shaggy, they're all in this. But there's also horror elements in this show to, you know, tie it a little bit closer to Scooby-Doo, to what Scooby-Doo originally was. This show, aside from having Shaggy and Scooby-Doo as its main characters, it has like almost nothing to do with Scooby-Doo. It is a completely original plot that has nothing to do with any Scooby-Doo cartoon that came before it or any Scooby-Doo cartoon that came after it. Now, you might be thinking that I'm saying this as like a negative thing, that I'm criticizing the show for this, but no, this is the complete opposite. That just makes the show even better. The fact that it has nothing to do with Scooby-Doo at all. It's this completely original plot that just has like Shaggy and Scooby-Doo shoehorned in. It just makes it even better. This show is actually good. I don't even care what people say. I've been wanting to make this video for a long time now because I've always like I've been fascinated with this thing's existence for a long time now. Like, yeah, I liked this when I was a kid. I loved it. I didn't know any better. But looking at it now in retrospect, I'm kind of fascinated by this thing's existence. And to be honest, I'm not even sure if I should make this video a search for the worst cartoon or not. But you know what? I might as well do it. I don't see any reason why not to have it in. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about Shaggy and Scooby-Doo Get a Clue, the greatest Scooby-Doo cartoon ever made. There is not a single Scooby-Doo cartoon that comes close to being as good as Shaggy and Scooby-Doo Get a Clue. It is a masterpiece of a show. If any of y'all hate this show just because it's different from all the other Scooby-Doo cartoons, then y'all are lame. I hope you know that. I can understand why people hate Velma, but like, how the could you hate this show? It's a masterpiece. It's amazing. Imagine being this devoted to Scooby-Doo of all things, that you get like offended by this. You get angry and like you hate this show just because it has the audacity to do something different from the notoriously formulaic and derivative style of Scooby-Doo. Couldn't be me, that's for sure. So anyways, let's actually talk about Shaggy and Scooby-Doo Get a Clue. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to like, and if you're new to the channel, maybe consider subscribing, as it would be greatly appreciated. With that said, let us dive in. For starters, you have the theme song for this show, which I unfortunately cannot play for copyright reasons, but let me just explain something. Okay, so you guys know The Offspring. They're a pop punk band. They're considered like one of the first big pop punk bands. Their 1994 album Smash is considered like a defining pop punk album, and they have this song from their 2000 album Conspiracy of One named One Fine Day, and I cannot play either one, but just listen to the two songs back to back and see if you can notice a resemblance between the two. And keep in mind, this song came out in 2000. Shaggy and Scooby-Doo Get a Clue came out in 2006. Man, if I had a nickel for every time there was a Kids WB cartoon that had a theme song that was eerily similar to a pop punk song, I would have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. It's also interesting to note that this was the final cartoon to have any sort of involvement from Joseph Barbera, the Barbera in Hanna-Barbera, as he would pass away in December of 2006, a few months after the show premiered in September of that same year. And I've got to say, I'm not even saying this to be disrespectful, I mean this completely seriously. This is a perfect way to end your career. Like, it's perfect to end it off with a weird masterpiece show. Like, I know it seems like I'm joking around and stuff, but I unironically kind of love this show. Like, it's genuinely amazing to me. It's kind of similar to, like, Adventures of Kid Danger, where it's like, it's too weird for me to, like, hate it. It's too surreal. In this case, though, it's just because, like, it's supposed to be Scooby-Doo related, but it has like nothing to do with Scooby-Doo. You kids out here complaining about how Teen Titans Go is bad because it's too different from Teen Titans 2003, y'all wouldn't survive Shaggy and Scooby-Doo Get a Clue. I'm just gonna say that right there. If y'all think Teen Titans Go is too different from its original show, then like, yeah, I don't know if you'd be able to survive this. I think this might be a little too strong for you. That, and that, like, that weird, edgy Looney Tunes cartoon that was, like, airing around the same time as this. The series follows Shaggy and Scooby-Doo as they inherit the mansion of Shaggy's Uncle Albert, who had mysteriously disappeared. Prior to disappearing, Uncle Albert was an inventor who had advanced technology that he would mix into Scooby snacks. The main villain of the show, Dr. Phineas Phibes, wants this advanced technology for himself to take over the world and become immortal. And it's up to Shaggy and Scooby-Doo to prevent Dr. Phibes from obtaining the technology while also trying to find where Uncle Albert went. Yes, this is the plot for a Scooby-Doo cartoon. This is a character from a Scooby-Doo cartoon. There are no ghosts, there's no like spooky houses or anything like that. The mansion that they stay in isn't haunted or anything like that. Nothing like that at all. Fred, Daphne, and Velma make extremely rare cameo appearances on the show, but for the most part, it's just Shaggy and Scooby-Doo, and that's it. When Scooby eats a Scooby snack, it can transform him and give him any sort of power. It varies. It can make him strong, it can make him invisible, it could do a variety of different things, and I gotta say, I absolutely love the idea of having Scooby snacks that could, like, change Scooby-Doo and, like, give him powers. Like, that's actually an amazing idea, and I am both surprised and disappointed that this is the only time that such an idea is, like, featured in any Scooby-Doo cartoon at all. Inside the mansion is a robot butler named Roby, because, of course, you know, why would there not be a robot butler in this Scooby-Doo cartoon? Just to add to the bizarrety of it all. In the final episode of the series, Shaggy and Scooby-Doo infiltrate Dr. Phibes' base in order to find Uncle Albert. I intentionally watched the final episode of this series for this video because I wanted to see how this show ended, because a part of me believed that this was going to end with like an unsolved cliffhanger. This was going to be the kind of show that would have like an unresolved cliffhanger, because there is no season 3. It ends after this episode, and so I thought it was going to end and it's going to be like they never find Uncle Albert or anything like that, but to my surprise, no. It actually ends properly. They end up finding Uncle Albert, and it turns out that all this time, he was in disguise, pretending to be an assistant for Dr. Phibes. So it really caught me off guard that this actually had a proper serious finale. I guess in a way you could say this was like a mini-series, this show, because it didn't last long. It only had 2 seasons and 26 episodes, but it wasn't canceled. It had a proper conclusion, so it's mind-boggling to me that this actually had a proper finale. In the past, we have looked at cartoons that have been canceled. On rare occasions, we look at cartoons that are still going on to this very day, but this is an even rarer thing. A cartoon that actually had a proper ending, a proper series finale. I never thought I would ever see a cartoon like this on this series, but there you go. This show actually has a proper series finale. I thought it was canceled. I thought it would end with an unresolved cliffhanger, but no, it ends with everything solved. Shaggy and Scooby find Uncle Albert and they stop Dr. Phibes once and for all. The end. I'm genuinely surprised by that. Kudos to Shaggy and Scooby-Doo get a clue. Kudos to that. Seriously. Shaggy and Scooby-Doo Get a Clue is a very weird show, but at the same time, I love it because it is weird. I gotta be honest, I don't even know if this is Search for the Worst Cartoon worthy, because I unironically kind of love this show. Like, this isn't a funny bad show, this isn't a guilty pleasure. I genuinely believe that this is actually an amazing show. This feels like the kind of show that would get like a cult following, you know? People would look at it just like that weird, different Scooby-Doo cartoon that's also kind of a gem. A hidden gem buried deep into Scooby-Doo's very long history. The fact that, like, it's supposed to be Scooby-Doo related, but it has like almost nothing to do with Scooby-Doo at all, aside from having Shaggy and Scooby-Doo be the main characters. Aside from that, there's nothing in this show that makes it Scooby-Doo related at all. It is a completely original storyline that just so happens to have Shaggy and Scooby in it as the main characters. But the thing is, this original storyline is actually pretty good, I'm not even gonna lie. Listen, the live-action Scooby-Doo movies were poorly received when they first came out, but since then they have been re-evaluated and are now rightfully seen as cinematic masterpieces. I'm just saying, anything is possible when it comes to Shaggy and Scooby-Doo Get a Clue. Again, I can understand why people hate Velma, but like, I'm sorry, but you're kind of lame if you hate this show just because it's different from Scooby-Doo. This doesn't really like disrespect Scooby-Doo in the same way like Velma does. I mean, to be fair with Velma, Velma has like almost nothing to do with Scooby-Doo, so it's like I can't even pull the whole thing of like, oh, it disrespects Scooby-Doo or whatever, but like this disrespects it even less than Velma does. I have a very hard time trying to choose exactly where to rank this on the Search for the Worst Cartoon ranking list. I mean, obviously it's going to be very high up, but I don't know exactly where to put it. Objectively speaking, this is the best cartoon I've looked at on this series. I consider this genuinely good. I don't consider this funny, bad, or a guilty pleasure or anything like that. But at the same time, I'm not really sure. It's mainly like trying to compare this to The Nut Shack and The Adventures of Kid Danger. Like, I don't know how to rank these three shows. For the time being, I'm going to put this in third place behind The Nut Shack and The Adventures of Kid Danger. There's a chance that in the future I might change my mind and put this at the top of the list, but I have no idea. I cannot decide. The one thing that matters is this is one of the best cartoons I've looked at on this series, and an absolute amazing show that I absolutely love. I'm glad this show exists. I truly am glad that it exists in all of its weird f***ing glory. Mindy Kaling could never. I think we can all agree on that. Anyways, that's about it. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to like, and if you're new to the channel, maybe consider subscribing, as it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you everyone for watching this video, and I will see you all next time. Adios.